Welcome to Haunt Weekly. Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Crystal.
And this is Haunt Weekly, a weekly podcast for the haunted attraction and haunted entertainment industry. Whether you're an actor, owner, or just plain aficionado, we aim to be a podcast for you. And once again, like clockwork, every Monday we are back here jabbing and jawing in your ears about whatever floats our boat this particular week. It's a great relationship we have. How are you doing, Crystal?
I'm doing okay. A little bit tired.
Oh, yeah, well,
you know.
You act like it's, like late August or something, big sissy. Oh, wait.
Yeah. Full construction going on
Yeah.
in our little haunt, so
Yeah.
it's taking off.
Also, as a word of warning, our neighbors across the street are getting their roof redone, apparently.
Yeah.
And they've been we think they've stopped hammering, basically, but they might start up again. Who knows? So be warned about that. We did our best to time this between the hammering.
Right, and when they hammer, sometimes dogs bark, and so that might be going on in the background.
Cats and dogs living together, complete chaos. Oh man,
Exactly.
I screwed up the line horribly. Anyway,
You did, but it's okay.
Anyways, but we have a lot to go through this week. And then, by the way, the reason we're tired is, like she said, we have been working in our haunt. We run a small free haunt here in New Orleans. We're finally getting our construction underway.
Yeah.
Redoing a few rooms, and we are exhausted. We're lucky, though. We don't actually open until the weekend of Halloween.
Right.
We only have 3 to 4 days of open time. And that allows us to go visit all these other haunts, which we will be doing. So that's the other thing we're gearing up for and planning right now. So we'll be talking more about the haunts we'll be going to soon, I hope.
Right, and if you're within about a 10-hour drive of New Orleans and want us to come and check...
And for the record, that covers everything from here to St. Louis if you go north.
Right.
And I think all the way into the Florida Panhandle if you go east and basically East Texas.
Yeah, you don't get past Texas if you just go straight.
Basically right at the Texas border.
Yeah.
We might be able to see San Antonio.
Yeah.
But no, anything like a good range, and you're interested in having us come out, interested in meeting us, let us know.
Yep.
We're still booking the schedule, limited weekends, limited time, but we're going to do everything we can to visit all the haunts, both locally and regionally, that we can.
Yep, that's about it for
And by the way, 10 hours south is glug, glug, glug.
Yes.
Yeah, just to make sure we covered all the directions.
Okay.
All right. But anyways, we have a lot to go over this week. The topic is paid versus unpaid actors.
Yes.
This is a topic we actually touched on super briefly in episode 21.
We did.
And we're going to go into grave detail right now on.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about this. But first, as always with the show, when we don't have a special guest at the very least, conference reminders.
Right.
Rock, paper, scissors. Who wants to take the first one? All right, I'll kick it off then.
I was just going to kick it off.
All right, kick it off then, Crystal.
Mask Fest.
You see, this is a well-planned episode,
Yes.
well-planned podcast.
Mask Fest, September 9th through 11th. Marriott, Indianapolis East. MaskFest.com for more information.
Yeah, this is a great thing if you're looking to pick up last-minute masks and makeup stuff for your haunt right before season begins. As Crystal reminds you, do not get sick.
Yeah.
Please, bring some antiseptic spray or something for those masks if you try them on. All right, we have a last-minute addition to our conference reminders. Son of Monsterpalooza. It's the Marriott Burbank Hotel in Burbank, California. It's September 16th through 18th. Now, this is more of a horror film conference, but it also has a heavy focus on makeup and special effects, so definitely might be worth checking out. It's at monsterpalooza.com.
Right. And then we have Legendary Haunt Tour, November 11th through 12th, so just after season this time.
Yep.
It's going to be in Pittsburgh at the Falmont Pittsburgh, put on by the Trans World people. They're the ones that need to change their banner.
Okay, guys, if anyone from the Legendary Haunt Tour is listening to this, the top part of your site says Hotel TBA. I just happened today to click on the actual hotel page and get this information. So just a heads up.
Yeah, so if it's actually been announced for a while and we've been saying TBA,
like
that's
idiots,
why.
We're sorry, but there you go. It's just a heads up to the guys doing that.
And they'll be visiting Scare House and 100 Acres Manor and its legendary haunt tour with 2ts.com for more information.
We don't skimp on no letters in this industry.
Wow, that was good grammar.
Don't skip on no letters. Dang right. Anyways, then we have the Halloween and Party Expo at January 14th through 17th at the New Orleans, L.A.
It's Nolans.
The New Orleans Convention Center here in the great city, in the Big Easy. There will be some 350 vendors. Now, bear in mind, this conference it's more of an expo. It requires a business verification, so bring your business license.
Tax ID.
Tax ID and all that jazz. You'll have to apply to be allowed in, but you can do so at HalloweenPartyExpo.com.
Yep.
Oh, this is fun.
And next, it's Corn Party, and that's January 17th through 20th. It's going to be in Hawaii.
Yeah, they're doing multiple locations. It's on multiple islands, actually.
Right. But Hawaii, the collective islands of Hawaii.
Yes.
Going to different ones.
I think they'll be on Maui and Oahu, according to the site.
Oh, okay. And for operators of corn mazes and themaze.com. That's M-A-I-Z-E, like corn maze.
Like the Pilgrims brought maize.
Yeah.
Maize. Did they bring
it was the Indians. What are you thinking?
I didn't do that stupid play. Like, the only time I ever saw a Thanksgiving play was in the Addams Family movie.
It was accurate enough.
It was fairly accurate enough. All right. Then we begin the new year. 2017 kicks off with HauntCon, January 26th through 30th at Nashville, Tennessee at the Sheraton Nashville Airport. Tours of Haunted Hell Nashville on Thursday, Nashville Nightmares on Saturday, and the Slaughterhouse on Sunday.
And hauntcon.com.
At hauntcon.com. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yep.
I was just impressed I got through the list of haunt tours. Hey, I'm doing good tonight. Okay.
Yeah.
We might both be a little tired.
And then Transworld have another convention coming up in March 23rd through 26th.
It's
Halloween.
The big one. It's Transworld.
Yes, it's Transworld's Halloween and Attraction Show.
It's not just another one, it's the Transworld show.
Yes, it's the big one. Okay?
The big Transworld dance. The big kahuna. No, never mind. I'll shut up now.
That's probably a good idea. It's going to be in St. Louis, Missouri at the America Center. Early bird discounts of $50 off are through March.
Yeah. Basically, all Transworld shows, I meant to add this into the notes, there's an early bird discount like right up until the show starts. And then the prices get jacked way up if you buy tickets at the door.
So that's really good to know. So that one that that we just found out where the hotel was is probably still an early bird special.
Yes, actually.
Okay. So, and for that you go to HAASHOW.
HAAshow.com, basically.
Yes.
Which is the abbreviation for the Halloween and Attractions Show.com. So they add...
But it just...
Maybe we do skimp on some letters in this industry.
It's just show.
Okay. Anyways. And then after that, final one we're doing today, the Midwest Haunters Convention, June 8th through 11th, 2017 at Columbus, Ohio, at the Greater Columbus Center. There is a haunt tour, but it is currently TBA. It has not been announced. And that one actually is TBA, by the way. I double checked. And you can find out more at MidwestHauntersConvention.com. See, we didn't skip on any letters there.
Nope.
All right. On that note, everyone, we're returning to the topic from episode 21. That one we did a finding and recruiting actors.
Right.
And we did like a drive-by on this topic, and I think we mentioned like 3 times as we were doing it.
Yeah, and I think we did a drive-by also in the episode with Kyle when he was talking about being an actor.
Yes.
Because he has done both kinds of gigs.
Yes, he has. And he actually had a lot of great insight on the issue during our episodes with him. So, yeah, we're actually getting to a point where it can be self-referential.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, this to me is like one of the most important decisions you can make with a haunt.
Yes.
It really is to me, because this is going to determine so much of what happens moving forward with your haunt. Mm-hmm. I mean, the first thing is it determines how you recruit actors, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big, big difference whether you're trying to hire people for a job versus looking for volunteers to help you staff a haunt.
Right.
Two very different processes.
Yeah, and I find that the haunts that hire people and pay them typically will put out ads saying as such.
Yeah.
Now, the ones that rely more on volunteers are more staffed by word of mouth.
Staffed by word of mouth, and also a lot of times I hear them approaching local drama clubs.
Right.
Also, a lot of volunteer organizations, for example, a lot of like volunteer boards in schools and military bases.
Right.
And that's actually a really good tip, by the way. If you're near a military base, get in touch with their if you're a volunteer haunt, get in touch with their volunteer coordinator.
Yeah.
They probably have a internal volunteer board that they can get your haunt on.
Right, as long as you have your tax exemption information.
Yep, exactly.
You're set up that way.
It's actually can be really beneficial, and believe me, some military volunteers can be a big asset.
Yeah.
Believe me on this one. But yeah, it really changes how you look for actors and how you think about actors during the recruiting process.
Right.
Are they people you're trying to let into your family, or are they just going to be employees? And I shouldn't say just going to be employees, because that's one thing I want to emphasize, is I know I'm going to say repeatedly things like, well, paid actors do this and unpaid actors do that. The truth is, you can have the good and the bad.
Right.
But this is like trends and tendencies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're not speaking about every single actor here.
No, and we're not speaking about every single haunt either. Because I know at least one haunt that does pay its actors and has a family atmosphere for it.
Yeah.
So
it can happen. It does happen. But we're talking about trends, tendencies, overarching themes.
We're basically pegboarding people into little slots for right now.
Yeah,
obviously there are outliers.
We're talking in broad strokes, and I know that's frustrating, especially if you're sitting there with one of those really awesome haunts that either has the very professional actors in an unpaid haunt, or the very, very family atmosphere in a paid haunt, for example.
Right.
I get that. Sorry. But we got to speak in the broad strokes. This podcast is only 50 minutes. We're already 12 minutes in or so.
Yeah.
So, TikTok.
Conference reminders took a while.
Hey, you know what? You wanted me to research the conference reminders. I researched the conference reminders.
I helped.
Yes, you did. You actually were very helpful. Crystal, and I helped.
Exactly.
All right. But beyond determining how you look for actors, it also sets your budget.
Right.
And this is huge, because actors, even at the low, and we're going to discuss the wages they get paid in a little bit. That's further down. It's toward the end of this episode.
It was actually a little more than I expected.
Yeah, it was. Well, I was a bit floored too. We'll get there. Yeah. Definitely stay tuned. But actors, even at the wage they're paid, which is not particularly great, are a huge expense when you consider they're done in aggregate.
Right. And if you've got a large haunt, obviously you're going to need more actors, because no one wants to go... Well, I'm sure somebody wants to go through a haunt that's just animatronics. But...
We did that.
I know. But it's not what we would recommend.
I don't see you charging $25 for that haunt.
No.
Anyways. But yeah, actors are they're flat expensive. So if you're going to pay your actors... You need to make that budgetary decision, like yesterday. Last year.
Yeah.
Like before you even considered launching a haunt, basically.
Yeah.
You need to go back in time. So it's going to be probably the largest line item on your budget. It's going to be your people if you pay your actors.
Yeah.
You got to figure out where that money's coming from.
Yeah. I mean, actors and the building are pretty much your biggest expenses, I think.
Yeah, it is.
So.
And the people, if you pay them, are always going to be the biggest expense, and that includes building and acting.
Right.
So I think that's what you were trying to get at. Is paying people for the functions in the haunt. That can be your biggest expense. It also sets the tone and the structure for your haunt behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're paying your actors, your haunt is going to, most likely, once again, take a much more top-down distribution. It's going to be very hierarchical in nature.
Yeah.
You're going to have the boss man, the boss men, the boss women's, whatever, and the paid employees.
Right. And some of the ones that we've heard about are actually businessmen who notice that haunts make money.
Yeah.
and decided to open a haunt for that reason. Yeah. And so it's run more like an office than it is a family.
You punch the clock, you go in, you scare some people, you punch out. It's like when the old Looney Tunes with Sam the sheepdog and Wile E. Coyote when they would pass. Morning, Sam.
Yeah,
it's like that. And that's, I guess that's one of the points I didn't really delve into when I was writing the show notes, was that a lot of this decision is made by the type of person who launches the haunt.
Yeah.
And this is something that's come up a lot, and we've noticed this ourselves, is there's two ways you can get into haunting.
Yes.
One is you can just love the crap out of haunting.
Yes.
And then want to launch a haunt and then go back and buffer the business skills.
Right.
Or apply business skills you might have learned elsewhere to the haunting.
Right.
The other option is you're a businessman who sees haunting as a business opportunity, and then you go and you develop the love for haunting, or you bring people in who have that love and that expertise.
Right. Right.
Those are the two directions you can come at it.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of overlap.
No.
In the people that we know who are in haunts.
There are very few people who come at it from both the business and the love for haunting side of it. And, and the thing is, both types of haunts can be very successful. We have seen both work and fly.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of filling the needs and the gaps you're bringing.
Right.
Because if you're a haunt lover that's never run a business, you need to bring some business people in.
Yeah, and the reason we say that is because there's a lot of things that a business person can bring.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like knowing how to find out what the regulations are, knowing how to do budgets, and advertising, and
knowing in general sort of how to handle the money.
Right.
Because if you're not used to running a business, that is wicked difficult.
Yeah.
That's a very foreign world.
Yeah, it is a special skill set, even if you've been in the business and it's something that you might not think about. Someone who's just starting out doesn't have that skill set perfected yet.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it starts with that, and a lot of times what I find is haunts that start from that more business side,
right,
immediately jump in and think of actors as employees and start paying them.
Yes.
People who love haunting, oftentimes, at least when they start, jump in with a volunteer approach to it.
Right.
And that's kind of what I've observed now, once again, broad strokes and all that jazz, but that's been my observation, the haunts here and the haunts I know.
Right.
Maybe your experience is different. If it is, let us know.
Yeah.
Twitter and Facebook at Haunt Weekly, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes.
So let's start with the advantages of paid actors. I think that's a good place to begin this conversation.
Okay.
First is you do tend to attract the highest quality actors.
Well, and you can also attract character actors.
Exactly.
Because people who perfect their own characters, they will bring you a resume of characters. Mm-hmm. And those guys want to be paid.
Yeah.
They put a lot of work into that. And
not only are they bringing their skills, they're bringing their costume, they're bringing their makeup, their masks, whatever else they got with them.
Right.
They're bringing...
They are bringing a full-fledged character to your haunt.
Yeah. That hopefully will help make you money.
Yeah.
And so, you will attract, typically speaking, the higher quality actors. And this is like the thing, I know the 13th Gate here pays their actors, and they pay fairly well from my understanding.
Right.
They have auditions every year. In fact, they're ongoing right now.
Yeah.
As we're recording, they're taking place.
Yeah. The mortuary is also just advertised that they are looking for actors too. So they pay also.
But the reason I mentioned the 13th Gate is because I know that they get 2x the applications and auditions the people they need.
Yes.
And so to have any job at the 13th Gate, you have to be at least average.
Yeah, you have to be a quality actor.
And if you want a good job at the mortuary, you have to be a very good actor. Or 13th Gate, sorry. You have to be a very good actor, sorry.
Right. Sorry, I got you confused.
Yes, you did. You started bringing more haunts into this.
I know.
When you pay actors do tend to be more reliable.
Yeah.
They will make those 6 o'clock deadlines. They will punch that clock. They will be there to start the timer. And that's just kind of how it is. When you're being paid, you're going to be there to collect that money and get that check.
Because you think of it even as a fun job.
Yeah, it's a fun job.
But it's still a job.
It does not have to be a miserable job by any stretch of the imagination. But it's still a job.
Yeah.
And as such, I also think, in my experience, once again, they tend to be more professional.
Yeah.
When you're paying them, they will tend to not do stupid things like drink heavily on the job, like we saw at one haunt we volunteered at.
Right. Yeah. And they'll also follow the rules a little bit better, I think. Not saying that volunteer haunts don't.
No.
But it's more of an issue.
Yes. And one of the issues, like I said, with the professionalism side is the level of caring, I guess is what I'm after. Is it's very easy for an actor, the beginning of season, to be really passionate and really into the role, but that can sometimes fade as the days drag on.
Right.
And especially as things get slow. It seems like the paying element motivates greater professionalism, motivates people to continue to keep that up.
Right, to keep coming and not, let you know 2 hours before opening that they're not going to show.
Yeah, exactly. So
may have happened.
It also makes it easier to enforce a central vision.
Yes.
The person cutting the checks gets to decide what's in the haunt.
Yeah.
Central Vision 101 takes place, basically.
Yeah.
So that's silly easy. And also it gives you, and this is strangely important, the ability to fire bad employees easily.
Right. Because you're not thinking of them so much as friends.
Yeah.
Now you can build that rapport again.
Yes,
but
you can.
Broad stroke, they are more employees.
Yeah, and
when you're getting 2 times the applications, they are replaceable.
Yes, they are highly replaceable. If you reach that point where you're getting enough applications to the point that you're having to weed people out,
right,
especially in large numbers, yeah, the person you fire is replaceable. And one of the issues you find with volunteer haunts is, like you said, it's spread by word of mouth.
Right.
So you got this guy Chuck who's working in your haunt, right?
Yeah.
And Chuck seems to be a good actor. He's doing well. He's like, hey, I can get my buddies, Mark, Paul, and Gina, and all these other people to work for us. Well, then that's great. So now you've got like 4 or 5 people helping you out. But then Chuck turns out to be a total screw-up later. He starts doing things that are against the rules.
Yeah. You
let him go. Well, so are all the people he brought with him a lot of times.
Right. Yeah, there's a potential for infighting and drama in that situation.
Exactly. And that creates a huge problem. Now, there are disadvantages to paid actors.
Yes.
One is that actors won't work without pay.
Yeah.
If this is a job to them, they're only going to be working when that clock is going.
And we should be, saying at least that this isn't about the ethics of whether or not to pay actors.
Oh, no.
This is just about what's in place right now.
We got some SJWs around us that will offer that up. We're not here to talk the ethics one way or another.
Yeah, that's another episode.
That's all. We could probably do a literal whole episode on that.
Yes.
But this is about the practical stuff.
Right.
With paid versus unpaid. But yeah, the actors will typically not work without pay. If this is a job and it's a job to them, they're not going to work off the clock. They're not going to stay late to help clean up off the clock.
Right.
They're not going to, help you do tear down without being paid.
Right.
So, basically, if you want those actors there, you have to be prepared to pay them. You can't say, hey, Chuck, you mind coming in Tuesday and helping me fix this prop?
And the other thing is I think once you are paying your actors, you're going to be known for paying your actors, so it's going to be hard to take away that. Yeah. It's going to be hard to go to a volunteer system.
The other issue is, of course, it's more expensive.
Yeah.
Ridiculously more. I shouldn't say ridiculously more expensive, but just way more, significantly more expensive.
Well, yes.
I mean, even if you have a fairly small haunt, paying actors will become your primary expense.
Right. Something is more than nothing.
Yeah, obviously. And, that expense may put a limit on the number of actors you have in your haunt.
Right.
And I remember distinctly one haunt we did recently that had only one actor.
Yes. One
very, very dedicated, exhausted actor.
Yeah.
I should be clear. They actually had 3 people working. They had the person out front of house. They had the girl that let you in the haunt.
Right.
And then they had one actor in the haunt itself.
Yeah.
So that was it.
They could have had 2.
Maybe, but I only have evidence of one, like you guys.
No, I mean, they could have had the girl doing some of the ones inside the haunt, too, instead of just making that poor guy run everywhere.
Anyways. Yeah. And the other thing about it is, once this is a job and the money is the primary motivator,
right,
actors will often leave for higher paying gigs.
Yeah.
The long and short of that is, paying actors gives you greater loyalty within the season.
Yes.
Once you've hired that actor, they will probably be there through Halloween. But next year, if they get a better gig, they're going elsewhere.
Right. And that goes back to that professionalism and thinking of it as a paid employment position. Is that once you sign a contract and you have a business mind that your acting ability is what's getting, food in your mouth and your bills paid, then you know that contracts once signed are kept through season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that does not guarantee they will return next season.
Nope. There are lots of roving character actors out there.
Lots of roving characters, and even within just one haunt community, if you're offering $10 an hour,
right,
and a haunt next door and a haunt across town opens up, and they're paying paying 11 or 12, that's a 10% to 20% raise for your actors.
Yeah.
And they could easily jump ship just to get that higher pay.
Right.
Or if they're offering more hours.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? So you have this situation where it is fairly easy to take away your actors unless you also manage to grow that family atmosphere, which is it's not impossible, but it is more difficult in that environment.
Yep.
You have new challenges. Now, the advantage is unpaid actors. Obviously, it's cheaper.
Yes.
You don't have to pay actors. Yeah, woohoo!
Once again, nothing is less than something.
That makes it more difficult to recruit, but once you do recruit, you do have an easier path to building that family atmosphere every haunt talks about building. And many haunts, in fact, I think still today, most haunts struggle with to some degree.
Yes.
And it's very interesting. One of the things I like doing at HauntCon, when we go to these haunt conventions, is listening to the panels and the stories from the haunts that did it successfully.
Right.
And find out the things they did.
Yes.
That's one of the most useful things I find at those, even more than how to spray flame retardant on every living thing and non-living thing.
Yes.
Not, which is useful too, but
it is. It could save lives.
Yes, it could, but it is easier to build that that type of family atmosphere.
Right.
And the actors, if they become invested, they do become invested in the haunt, not as a job, but as a personal project.
Right.
Because
it's a passion project.
It's a passion project. And like I said, that may create problems within the season, especially if, their work job gets in the way.
Right.
But it creates easier and greater longevity.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to get snatched away by another haunt offering higher pay.
No, they're going to be there because you guys are friends at some point.
You're friends. This is something they love. This is something they're passionate about, and it's very hard to to replace that.
Right.
To come in and recruit an actor a way that feels that way.
Yes.
Now that being said, there are many, many, many disadvantages, obviously, and the biggest that I find is keeping your actors hinges completely upon keeping them happy.
Yeah.
And that means
that's a lot of that could go on both.
Yes, but it's especially true.
It is.
People will put up with a lot more when they're being paid.
This is very true.
Typically. They're much quicker to walk away if they are unhappy.
Yeah.
If they're not being paid. I mean, we've had actors who walked away from us just because we said no drinking when the haunts open.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's just it. If we were able to pay, that would not have been an issue. Like, well, no kidding. You can't drink. You're on the job.
Yeah.
You see, things like that are problematic. So yeah, and frankly, though, the other issue is a lot of this stuff is out of your control.
Right.
A lot of the things that make actors unhappy is drama between actors. It's fire code stuff. It's stuff that, well, you can't have that room that way. You don't have the proper egress. You don't have you know what I mean? It's a fire hazard. You can't build that room that way.
Oh.
You know what I mean? You can't design that room that way.
Oh, it's whenever actors are wanting to have creative control is what you're talking about. Okay.
You have to put limits on what they can do.
Right.
So yeah, you can't really do much about that. And like I said, also it impacts conflicts with paying jobs. If they have an evening job, or if they have a job where they've got to get up early the next morning, haunting can be brutal.
Yes, it can.
It can be very, very brutal, as you found out last year.
Right.
So up until midnight, home probably at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
In bed by 1:30, up again at 5:30 or whatever.
Yeah, I still think the most tiring year was when we were doing ours and volunteering, because that was just crazy.
Yeah,
and we did it for like 3 years.
Yeah, we not only doing our haunt and volunteering, but also going to other haunts.
Right.
Because basically what we would do is we would go out, work in our haunt, like on Saturday, we get up at like 9 a.m., work in our haunt until about 4.
Right.
Just out there, just straight 7 hours of heavy labor.
Yeah.
Go, clean up, change, drive out, be at the cast call at 6 p.m. at the other haunt.
Right, because it was a ways away.
It was a ways away. And then work there from 7 until 11, get home at past midnight, go to bed, get up at 9 a.m. Sunday to resume work in our haunt.
Right, and any haunts we visited was on Thursdays, because we were also working out with them on Fridays. Yep. So we were there on Fridays for 6 p.m. roll call, and then come home and work until 4 a.m. at ours. Right. So get in 3 or 4 hours at ours.
We got too old for that crap, basically. When it comes down to it. We got too old for that crap.
Yeah.
The main thing, though, is I find that when you have unpaid actors, you as the haunt owner, and that's the you there, are working for the actors.
Yes.
Not the other way around.
Right. You have to keep thinking of ways that they will want to be invested in your haunt. And it's not just a friendship thing, and it's not just a love of haunting. Because they do want some kind of stake in it.
Yeah. There's an element of creative control in this.
Right.
Which makes it kind of difficult to maintain any centralized vision.
Right. Certain ways that you can do this is with your backstory, as long as you give people, and I believe Holly touched on this too. You know, she brings her actors in and she says, okay, this is the room. What color do you want it? What do you want your costume to look like?
Yeah.
And that's something that they have a little bit of creative say in it, but they still have some ownership over it, you know.
Yeah.
And you still have the final say.
Yeah, those types of things can be tough to do, though.
Right.
I mean, and that's one of the challenges you face, is now you're getting creative input in this sweat equity investment from multiple sources.
Right.
Unpaid sweat equity.
Right.
And that makes it very difficult to maintain that level of creative control. You have to, like you said, you have to find ways to do that. It can be done, but you have to find ways to do it. And a lot of this hinges, like I said, on making actors happy, and that can be everything from having a haunt mom who takes care of the actors very well and provides water and snacks, to, you know, like I said, the creative control elements.
Right.
You've got to find every way you can, without paying, to reward your actors and encourage their investment and reward their investment.
Right.
And the other challenge, and we touched on this previously, is that it becomes very, very difficult to fire toxic actors.
Yes.
Especially in smaller haunts.
Yeah. And not only toxic actors, but bad actors.
Yeah.
Because if, you know, Chuck brings in Jimmy, and Jimmy just doesn't work at all. He
has all the stage presence of a sack of potatoes.
Yeah, pretty much. You can't let him go. Yeah. I mean, it's just going to be more difficult, because that's going to piss off Chuck, and he might be one of your best.
Yes. And that's always difficult.
Yeah.
You know, the honest advice there, I have found in those situations, is try to have roles where bad actors can operate.
Yep. Back to the drop panels, discussions.
Or even just scene extras sometimes.
Right.
You know, one of the great ideas I found is, if you have those weaker actors you have to keep on board, or want to keep on board, they can be the distract and startle.
Right. And they can learn from watching the better ones.
And then that's the other thing, is they're operating a scare in a simple role, and they're learning, and we've talked about that before. It's a great way to do it.
Right.
So which do you choose? What's it say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a tough question. Obviously, charity haunts almost always are free, or paid, or unpaid.
Volunteers.
Or volunteer. Charity haunts almost always volunteer actors. And that's obvious, because the point of a charity haunt is not to run a business, it's to raise money for a charity of some sort.
Right.
And they also have an upper hand, I find, because they typically have a ready pool of volunteers from the charity itself.
Yes. In fact, it's usually written into the contract that so many people will provide so many hours of work whenever you pair up.
Yeah. And it's easier sometimes to maintain those volunteer haunts because the commitment isn't just to the haunt,
right?
It's to the bigger cause.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a way to do that and also have that family atmosphere still.
Yeah.
Because you're both supporting a cause.
Yeah. So if you're doing like the very first haunt we were ever in was for the Boy Scouts.
Right.
And that was actually really cool because we were like, it was interesting because you had two types of people in that haunt that I could tell. You had haunty people,
yes,
who just wanted to scare the crap out of people. They didn't care where they did it. That was us, by the way. But then you had the Boy Scout people and their families,
right?
And I gotta be straight, man. Some of those we're only doing it to raise money type thing. Yeah. We're actually some of the best actors.
Yeah, they were into it. They just couldn't accept being into it.
Yeah, they were really, really good and really into it. They just don't want to, admit it. Like you said, don't tell their parents they were really into it, type thing. But yeah, so charity haunts tend to go unpaid, tend to go volunteer for obvious reasons. Pro haunts, in my experience, are split.
Yes.
I think right now, in our area, and this is our region here,
right,
the majority are unpaid, but the trending is toward more paid haunts, I think.
Really?
I think so.
I think it's the opposite. I don't know what Rise does.
Yeah, we need to actually take a survey.
I know 13th Gate and Mortuary pay their actors. Yes. I know House of Shock is volunteer.
Yes.
So on the three that I know, it's 2-1.
Yeah. But either way, I do think the trend is going toward more paid haunts.
Yeah.
I think is almost... what we need to do is, as we're visiting haunts, we need to find out what you're paying and what you're not paying their actors. Yeah. We usually speak to the owners or some officials every time we visit a haunt.
Right.
Usually they find us at this point.
Yeah, we're usually spotted.
Damn garbage whore. Yeah. Damn garbage whore. Yes. Choice of video format. We were idiots.
Yes, if we had always been podcasters, then,
Yeah, we just learned about this newfangled podcasting thing. No, we knew about podcasting. Can't pull that one. All right.
Anyway.
But yeah, the trend definitely seems to be more toward paying actors, and that's as new haunts come online, they're oftentimes starting out paying, or haunts are moving. That inertia seems to be toward paid actors, so to speak. And I think, like I said, many haunts, and the decision rather is usually made based upon, both the combination of the budget and the atmosphere the haunt wants in the background.
Right.
I mean, some haunts, they start out, if a haunt starts like ours does, or like House of Shock did,
right,
where they are a home haunt or a charity haunt, and then they decide to take it full pro,
right,
they oftentimes just have that built-in family atmosphere, and they don't want to change it, so they continue with it.
Right.
And that can make it very difficult, because, one of the things we noticed in our run is we actually had some actors come to us, who wanted to participate in the House of Shock, but could not meet the demands because the House of Shock is very time and very demanding in what they want.
Right.
And that's not a knock on them. That's just these actors could not, for jobs or other reasons, make that commitment, but they could commit to the nights we were open.
Right.
And like I said, that's not a knock on anyone.
No.
That's just a reality there. But that's just it. They want to maintain. They want to maintain that family atmosphere, that group atmosphere, and they carry it into the pro haunt. And that can be very difficult, especially if you're running a large one.
Right.
Because now you've got to recruit dozens, possibly hundreds of people to work for free.
Right. Well, we also had an actor come to us who was using their own makeup. We had a makeup artist.
Mm-hmm.
And they were using their own makeup at the haunt they were at.
Yeah.
And they weren't paid. And they weren't paid for their materials.
Yeah.
So that's why they left. Is because that was a cost, and that they just didn't want to deal with.
Yeah, and
because that stuff's expensive.
Yeah, and look at it from most of what he was doing was Knox gelatin, wounds and dyes and things.
Yeah, but the paints
are expensive. And basically from our end, we pay because we have a much smaller crew.
Yeah.
We were able to pay, I think, like $40 or so.
Yeah.
And get all the makeup supplies he needed.
Yeah.
Including like 8 metric tons of Knox gelatin. I remember buying Walmart out of that stuff like twice.
Yeah.
For him. So we paid $40. We had a free makeup artist.
Yeah. And it was great.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the other issue is a lot of haunts who just can't pay, don't pay.
Right.
That one should be pretty obvious.
Yeah, that's where we sit.
Well, that and we are a free haunt.
I know.
But, if you can't pay, you don't pay. Duh, right?
Yeah.
But there is a trend. I do see some haunts starting out as unpaid and then dipping their toe into and then moving to becoming a paid actor haunt.
Right.
So, if you make the decision to pay your actors, there's one question everyone has. How much do you pay them?
I don't know.
That's a very valid question, and I actually did a fair amount of research on this before this podcast. And the best numbers I could get, and I actually perused, and this not in our actual show notes, our private show notes, I actually perused a bunch of forums and things too, and I found these numbers to be fairly consistent.
Right.
But there's research done in Oregon that found the average haunted attraction worker gets $9.46 per hour.
Yeah.
That's the average.
Right. Which is above the minimum wage.
Yeah, the minimum wage is $7.25 per hour, so they're making about $2 over the minimum wage.
Right.
Now, it's a lot of haunts do pay minimum wage.
Yeah.
I'll say that right now. I know they do. But it seemed, and this was going back to forums and going back to other conversations about how much to pay actors, it seemed that range was pretty tight between $9 and $12 per hour. $9 being sort of the low end, $12 being the very high.
Right.
Now, it's very important to remember as we say this that, like I said, the federal minimum wage is $7.25 and maybe higher in your area, especially if you're in one of the cities that's been increasing minimum wage. I think San Francisco, New York, and a few other places have been greatly increasing the minimum wage. Some states do too. But also remember, haunters typically only work 20 hours-ish a week.
Right.
Most weeks out of season. Most haunts are open only about 2 to 3 nights, depending upon the haunt.
A week, yeah.
A week, yes. And you're only, as a actor, probably working 6 hours a night, 6 to 7 hours a night.
Right.
Because, in fact, I checked several sites about when the casting call and when you punch in and punch out is.
Right.
Nearly every haunt has a 6 p.m. casting call.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they open at 7.
Right.
And then they expect their actors to be clocking out at about midnight.
Yeah.
Or 1 a.m. at the latest.
That seems very reasonable. Or
so
very
if
consistent.
you multiply, so you got those 6 hours, you multiply it times 3 nights a week, you're probably working. That's less than 20 hours per week. It's not even a part-time job.
Right.
And so the actual take-home after taxes and all that jazz is still very, very low for the actor.
Right.
And so that's led many haunts to say, well, the pay is so low and this take-home is so little, it's not worth paying them. It's practically a volunteer gig anyway.
Right.
But we as haunters who do this 24/7, live, eat, and breathe this stuff, it can be easy to forget that for a lot of these actors, this is supplemental income. It's secondary income.
Right.
They're coming to you after they leave their other job.
Right. And not only that, but
this is the fun job.
Exactly. It is the fun job. It's the one that they're passionate about.
Yes.
And being paid is nice.
It is. And like I said, it encourages all those other things we discussed previously.
Right. Professionalism, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, blah, blah,
gotcha.
blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, it's one of those things where you have to keep that in mind. No actor is likely to live off of this during season, though.
No.
It's supplemental income. It may not seem like a lot to you, but if it's, especially considering I know some people who do this.
Right.
Who you take their haunt money and save it up and they use it for Christmas presents.
Yeah.
Because, hey, Christmas is right around the corner after Halloween. We forget that and we bemoan that.
Yeah.
But it can be a powerful motivator for actors saying, hey, look, make money for your Christmas presents now.
Right. And this is just a general shows up wanting to audition actor. This is not a character actor. They're going to want more.
Yeah.
And I think that as actors stay with you, you should consider paying them more each year.
Yeah, and which is why that $12... Basically, one site suggested, and this I thought was an interesting idea, was you start everyone out at a base rate. $9 an hour was the one he threw out.
Right.
And then increase 50 cents every season they're there.
Yeah.
something like that. It's a small upgrade. It might even be considered a token one, but it's a reward.
Yeah.
Now, bear in mind, even if the take-home isn't huge, this money still adds up in your expenses.
Yes, it does.
Now, quick back of the envelope, just an example here. Say you're paying $10 per hour. Why $10? I'm lazy and don't feel like doing math. You have 20 actors who are working 20 hours per week. That's 10 times 20 times 20. That's $4,000 per week just in actor pay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for your haunt, that may be more than doable. But it is a huge expense, and it's something you have to consider.
Right.
And that in the end is why a lot of haunts don't pay. It's just they can't simply fork over $4,000, $5,000 a week like that.
Right.
It's too much.
Plus all of the other insurances and stuff.
Rent, electricity, smelly stuff for fog machines, all the other expenses.
I was thinking more of workers' compensation and all of that stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That comes with having employees versus volunteers.
Very true, very true. Good point.
I worked in HR for a little while.
She might have spent a few years on it.
Yeah.
Now, there are some alternatives, though, to consider. Because, we don't like to talk about things totally in a dichotomy.
No.
So there are a few alternatives. One that we've discussed a few times, I don't know if we've ever reached a decision on, is pay in equity.
Right.
The idea here is give actors a % of the profit the haunt earns based upon the time they work.
Right. So if you've got someone who was there with you during the build process and the creative stuff and put in, hours and hours over months, they get a bigger percentage of the profit than the guy who shows up on,
Halloween night and works a few hours.
Yeah. Not that that's happened.
No. But you know what I mean, though.
Yeah.
Now, this is neat because it adds both a financial incentive both to work in the haunt,
right,
and to promote and help make the haunt successful.
Right, and it gives you that built-in, you own part of it.
Yeah.
You have skin in the game.
Yeah. It makes basically you're turning your actors into investors through their labor.
Right.
Which is a pretty interesting idea.
Now,
bear in mind, the problem with that is it doesn't give predictable pay.
Right.
If the haunt, for whatever reason, doesn't make money that year, nobody gets paid.
Right.
And that sucks.
Yeah.
And people might be understandably a little bit cranky about that.
Right.
So you have to consider that when you do this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think this is an interesting idea, especially if you combine it with other payment systems. But
right, sliding scales
exactly.
for people who are in your, in your core group versus not. Once again, going to that people who put in the most hours.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a very interesting approach to it, and I don't know if I would ever apply it, but I find it fascinating, and it's definitely worth a conversation.
Yeah.
You can also have both paid and unpaid roles. You can have a mix of the roles, and I see Crystal's face grimacing across the microphone from us.
Yeah, because I know haunts that do this.
And it don't go so good, usually.
No, it doesn't, because the people who are paid, usually this is the core group who started the haunt get paid from the profits, and everybody else doesn't.
Yeah, and that's the real problem. Is it creates a tier system, like a class system in the haunt.
Right.
And even if you say, okay, you can earn your way into the paid crowd if you become basically a zone captain, for example.
Right.
Or something like that.
Yeah, this haunt they didn't even do that. Yeah. There was no way to get into the paid group.
Yeah. And that's just it. If you're going to have paid and unpaid roles, there's going to be a tension, and it may spark a demand from the actors who are putting in a lot of work, and the builders who are putting in a lot of work,
right,
to get paid.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, I'm not really sure on the legality of this. If you can actually do this in a business environment, I would have to research that a little bit more, but I know that from HR days, like with benefits, you have to provide the same benefits across the board, whether it's a person who's making, minimum wage at 40 hours a week, all the way up to the COs. It has to be the same benefits provided. And so I'm not sure that you can actually legally do this.
Yeah, it might be worth checking into. I'm not. This is not my area of law,
right?
So I'm not like the worst person to ask about this.
Yeah, I have questions about that.
Okay, that's totally fair. You're allowed to have questions that we do not have immediate answers to. Maybe someone on this podcast, maybe someone listening has the answers and can write us back to Twitter and Facebook, Haunt Weekly.
Right, I would love to know.
Yeah, please let us know if you have the answer to that.
I'll probably research it, but
maybe,
I would love to know.
Maybe we'll come back next week. We're doing the news. Mm-hmm. So maybe we'll do an aside on this exact topic.
Yeah, or I'll just post it to the Facebook page.
Or whatever. That's fine. But no, but the main thing, even legality aside, this creates a tier system and a class system that creates tension.
Yeah.
And mistrust and creates problems.
Yeah. I just don't see it being a good idea.
No, I don't see it being a good idea. But
I'm just gonna leave
haunts
it there.
do it. So we got to mention it at least in brief.
Right.
Now, the main crux, and I guess the bottom line to all this is this. You can always start paying later.
Right.
But once you start paying, you can't go back.
Right.
Or you can't go back without basically losing everybody and everything you built.
Oh, yeah. Basically, you'd have to start over.
Yeah. It's from an actor / staff perspective, you would have to effectively start over, almost certainly.
Now, I could see something like, because we live in the area that we do, if you have a paid haunt and you were hit really hard by a hurricane or some natural disaster, then people might say, hey, we want to volunteer this year. Yeah. But it would be their choice.
Yeah. You can't do it by force.
Right.
And because the main thing is this, once you offer a reward, and once you have said to them, your time, your acting is worth this.
Yeah, you've set an expectation.
You've set that expectation, you've set that price point, no takebacks.
Right.
It's almost impossible.
No backsies.
No backsies, yeah. But it makes total sense because you have changed the nature of the relationship for better or worse.
Right.
And you can't reverse it, but you can always start paying later. You can always add a new incentive later. Yeah. And this is just one of those things where it's like, it's like teachers always talk about this, how they can loosen up on the rules later.
Right.
Like at the beginning of the school year, they're really hard on all the rules, no gum chewing in class and all that. They're really hard on them. And they can relax them later in the year if they decide they're being too harsh. But you can't start out relaxed and then ratchet it up later. That's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
The inertia in this is toward paying. So just remember, once you start going down that path, you're going down that path.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's all we have. That's a pretty good conversation there.
I think
we
so.
filled the hour.
I guess they will be the judge.
You will be the judge. Let us know. On that note, definitely we appreciate your feedback. And thank you to all the new subscribers and followers we picked up. We got a great deal of attention from last week's podcast.
Right.
And the interview we did there with Nina from Scaratorium. Nina, thank you, and the Scaratorium crew, thank you for joining us. We appreciate having you as listeners to the podcast.
Right, and also, Holly's haunt is auditioning for actors coming up soon. And
you say the last name. I'm not screwing it up again.
Chrysler.
Chrysler. It's not like Chrysler. It's not like Chrysler. It's
exactly.
See, I keep psyching myself out now.
Yes, I know. You just psyched me out. So anyway, so that's a link to that is posted on Haunt Weekly and also on her site.
Yeah, we got it on the Haunt Weekly Facebook.
Right.
So yes, once again, that's facebook.com/Haunt Weekly. We are twitter.com/Haunt Weekly. New site still very much in the works.
Yeah.
Progress is
slowing down because haunt season is picking up. I'm sorry.
Turns out you cannot hold a laptop and a drill at the same time. Who knew?
Yeah.
Thought you could.
Especially under an umbrella in the rain. We'll be posting that photo later.
We'll be posting some photos of Crystal building some pallet boxes actually for our front yard display.
Yep.
So that'd be fun. But yes, definitely. Maybe we'll talk more about what we're doing for our haunt in a future episode.
Right.
And get in some details. If you're interested, let us know. But on that note, everyone, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Crystal.
And this was Haunt Weekly, episode 39, paid versus unpaid actors. I guess also actors and staff.
Yeah.
But anyways, we will see you guys next week when we're doing the news. See you guys then. So when do I get my check for this?
When I do.